All right. So today what we're going to do is we get a ton of questions on maintenance. Maintenance is a big part of owning rental properties. So what I decided to do is bring in my director of operations for our construction company and maintenance company. This is Brian Donnelly. Brian and I have known each other 20 years-ish, you know, so, instead of me telling your background, go ahead and tell us about your impressive background.
It's far from impressive. So we did meet 20 years ago. I started out, my first construction experience was as a project manager for a new home builder here in Northwest Indiana. Did that for a while, learned the business.
They're out of business.
They're out of business. Yeah. I left at the peak. When I left,
you didn't run them out of business, right?
Not,
okay,
no.
All right, good.
No, went downhill shortly after I left. But prior to that, I had spent a couple of years flipping houses on my own, and I struggled through that a little bit as a new home flipper. It can be a little challenging. I got into the business construction, so I can really learn a lot about construction. And then you and I met in late
over a wholesale day. I wholesaled you a deal.
The property, right?
Yep.
I remember you saying like, I don't think there was no way I thought somebody was going to pull that deal off. We had like a 24-hour window to close it, right?
Yeah, it was a crazy deal.
It was a crazy deal.
Yep.
We did it. We flipped it. We GC'd, me and some partners and workers GC'd several properties for you, Gary, all over Northwest Indiana. The illustrious real estate market crash of 2008, 2009.
Hey, we even built some houses together.
We did.
Yeah,
we built some new houses. We were doing modular houses. Did a couple modular houses.
I convinced you guys to get in the modular world. I'm like, trust me, it'll work.
It'll be great. Yeah, it was a learning experience. Then market went down. Not a great time to be buying and selling houses. I just went directly into remodeling. I did kitchens and bathrooms and basements, anything that anyone was willing to pay me $1 for, so I could put groceries in the refrigerator. I did it.
The days of surviving.
Correct.
That's what it was.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are many stories of working the nights leading up to the holidays so that I get a job done, so that I could get money and get a check, and the kids could have something, for their birthday or Christmas or whatever like that.
That's why I love these new investors. They're going through a 14-year bull market, and I'm like, you're doing great, but wait till the market shifts, So that will tell who makes it and who doesn't make it.
Very true. I've done a lot of things. I've told people many times, told you this too. I've had to work really, really hard to make money to feed the family, right?
Yep.
And so I did whatever needed to be done. Electrical, HVAC, whatever. And so that led into a lot of different stuff. I've done project and construction management in telecom industry for major telecom carriers, flipped more houses. I got into business with some good friend of mine years ago. We built, we probably built 100 houses over a certain amount of time, brand new homes, single family ranch homes mostly. A lot of big box builders that you have to compete with. They build a lot of 2-stories, and they build them price per square foot. Can't compete. So we built a lot of single family ranch homes that were semi-custom, right? So we're used to dealing with, wasn't just your options for this or either A or A. It was, we tried to work with the clients and work with them and get them a house. Shortly after the pandemic, a couple of years after the pandemic ended, you called me, and I said,
"Hey, you've been with us now, what, a couple of years now?"
2 years, yeah. So, and when you called, I said, "Did you mean you're calling me on accident?" Like I didn't say hello. I said, "Are you meaning to call me, or did you mean to hang up already?"
Yeah, it's funny because I ran into a mutual friend of ours, and I was telling him, I just need somebody, and I'm like, because when we separated 15 years ago, I don't know, we probably did business 3 to 5 years together, and it was it was a mutual thing. We were going different directions and whatever, and it ended on good terms. But it always stuck with me, and I'm like, this is the kind of guy I need running the company. I'm like, I wonder what he's doing, and I brought it up to a mutual friend, and he's like, might want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? So, and now I have you under severe contract and you can't go anywhere.
I can't go anywhere. It's so much so that I'm even willing to do a video and an interview, right? Like
to have him in front of a camera is amazing. But anyways, and you went to college for what, electrical engineering?
Yeah, I'm a Purdue graduate, electrical engineering technology, very hands-on degree. So I did that. I did engineering for 4 or 5 years. Oddly enough, the engineering jobs I had were all maintenance type work. So in a manufacturing facility, I was the lead maintenance engineer, and machine went down. I was the first person they called. Then I did chemical lab equipment, a company out of the East Coast. I serviced the Midwest. Again, just something broke. I had to go fix it. And then last one was a engineer for a wireless company. And so it was
pretty diverse background.
A lot of different stuff. I've done I've been involved in a lot of different stuff, but it's all fixing stuff.
Yep.
I mean, my dad too. My dad's a electrician, and there's nothing that
great guy
has ever broken that he can't fix. So I guess I'm just born to do some kind of maintenance type work.
There we go. Awesome. So what we want to do is, I know, maintenance is always a sticking point with owners, so obviously it would be ideal if stuff never broke and, all that. But, we always decided our specialty is property management. But the unfortunate part of property management is we have to have maintenance.
Yep.
So in our opinion, just to rely purely on contractors or outside vendors and stuff is very complicated, and you lose control of quality, you lose control of time, there's a lot of different things. So years ago, I decided to build the in-house maintenance team and do that. And so I mean, even though we're separate companies and you run that company for me, we're really, it's more department than it is anything else. We have it broken up for liability reasons, some other reasons, but it's really the only client you work for.
That's it.
Is us.
That's right.
So, and it's important because there's times where last January when we had that 12-day where my vacation was planned fantastically to Arizona, and I was in Arizona for the whole 12-day deep freeze, we had guys working 7 days a week and 12-hour days and things like that, and our clients were put first versus having to wait, try to call a contractor during that time and they wouldn't pick up the phone.
Nope.
So
not only that, we did have to use contractors. We're high on their priority list, and we even got the contractors to come out. They put us first, like in bad ones, big freezing.
Some of our contractors, I think, been 10 plus years, with us. When I say some of them, I've been with even 15 years, so, and we give them a ton of business, and they take good care of us and our clients, when necessary. So it's a necessary evil, I guess you can say.
For sure.
But we just thought we'd take this time just to sort of explain everything we do for a reason. So, and it's sort of, you brought it up before we started talking, it's sort of counterintuitive because, as I brought you in, that company has to be profitable. It has to make money. But that's not our driving goal, is to make the most profit. And you brought up a good point is when we bid turns or, projects, things like that, we sort of bid them uniquely for a couple of reasons, and we can expand on this a little bit. But let's say that we believe a project's going to be $3,000 to $4,000. That's exactly how we'll bid it. We'll say $3,000 to $4,000. But what's our ultimate goal? As far as numbers.
Our ultimate goal is to come in under the low end. So our ultimate goal is to build less than the 3,000. We would prefer to take care of the property. One of our core values is assets, right? Like we are trying to protect. We believe that anyone that's willing to trust us with their property, we're willing to go the extra mile to protect their asset. And so part of that is us doing right and doing everything that's at the property correctly, but we want to come in under budget. And I would say more times than not, we're successful in billing less than what our low end of the estimated range is.
Yeah. So in that example, maybe it's 3,000 to 4,000. I mean, I would be happy, and we track this if we bid 2,800.
Right. If we bill 2,800.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah. Bill $2,800. People ask, well, then why are you bidding $3,000 to $4,000? And it's simple. And we teach our guys, whoever's out there, that if something needs to be addressed,
correct,
it has to be addressed. And an example that came up not too long ago is I think we had in there to put a new faucet into a vanity, and so, but when we took off the faucet, the hoses to the faucet were bad. The valves were bad.
Correct.
It's like, well, that's just going to be a future problem.
Right.
While we're here, the water's off, everything's done. Just it takes 15 minutes versus having to come back out for a service request, maybe damaging the vanity, maybe doing all that.
Correct.
So that's how our guys are sort of trained to look at things. So we want that little buffer because maybe there's some stuff that's maybe questionable. Can this, be just repaired or replaced or what's best? And and
a part of the reason why we give the range is I personally, and I operated my own business for many, many years. I hated nickeling and diming. I hated calling an owner and saying, or calling a client or anybody, I'm remodeling somebody's bathroom and saying, well, you know what, your valves are bad, so now it's going to be an extra $75. Like, no, I'm just going to do it.
And then we got to pull off the job and wait, for the owner to get called, and then maybe it takes a couple days to get an answer. It screws up schedules, and it's the right way of doing it in our opinion.
We do more work on there's not been a single vacant property that we've been hired to do a turn where we haven't done more than what was in the contract, without question. And I know this is going to cost me more work because you're going to tell me, well, track that so we could tell the owners what we're doing for them for free. It's a lot of work, but we'll get better at that.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I'm like, the owners need to know that. It's like we're giving them more value.
We do it. We'll get better at tracking. But every single time, I can the last 5-6 turns, I can pick one thing that the technicians have called me on, and I said, just do it, just replace it, and it goes unsaid, it goes on itemized bill, but what's done is done, and it was done for the right reason.
Yeah, it just there's another quick example is we had a shower valve replacement. We had to do it was a shower surround.
Correct.
We had to do. And the guy's like, go out there and just do the surround. And so we bid that out. Well, when we took it all down, we found out it wasn't the valve leaning and it was leaking.
Yeah,
it was leaking behind the wall.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, no, like while you have it all apart,
absolutely.
It'll cost, I don't know what it was, $300, $500. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you do it now, it's $300 to $500.
Right.
If I have to come back in 12 months, maybe it damages more. Now you got mold in the walls. Now you have an upset tenant,
Right.
and it's probably going to cost 2 to 3 times because I got to reopen that wall, re-put it back together. So that's how we look at things.
Agreed.
And we're looking. A lot of our clients have been with us a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's a marriage. It's not a quick sales pitch where a lot of contractors go in, go out, and if it breaks 6 months, who cares?
Yep.
We have to live with it.
We have to
live with that. We have to live with our clients.
Yeah.
We want to make sure long term that they're well taken care of.
Just another point too. It's not just on turns either. It's on vacant properties. We have occupied properties. We seem to have had a rash of subfloor around toilets just rotting, and you got to fix it, right? Well, you and I, we've done this enough. I did it in my own bathroom, a house I lived in for 20 years. You pull the toilet off, you pull the flooring out, and then you got this big, giant, rotten, moldy, gross mess, right?
Yep.
I could do it in 6 hours, or it could take me 2.5 days because I got to tear everything out, right? And so we give a big range, $2,000 to $4,000. We did this to some of your properties too. And then the final bill was quick. It was quick. It was like $850 is what we ended up charging, right?
Yeah, and what will happen a lot of the times is that you call in a regular contractor, they're going to bid $4,000, and if it only costs them $850, they're going to bill you.
They're going to bill you the
$4,000. So it's a little different way of looking at it, but I don't know if. I got to sleep at night. You got to sleep at night.
That's yes.
And like I said, the construction company is sort of a supporting, role of the company. It's not the way it's not our profit center, I guess you can say.
We're not looking to maximize profit on any particular job. I use the terminology many times in business where I'm not trying to hit home runs every time. I'm not trying to hit a grand slam every time. Let's just get a single here or there. Let's get a singles and just keep the doors open, keep the owners happy, and we all benefit by retaining owners, retaining tenants too. Tenants. Everybody benefits with less vacancy and less turnover, and it's part of it. You're gonna have a harder time with that if you're just constantly trying to gouge everybody. So we don't do it.
Work.
I mean, we are. It may not seem like it. Maintenance. I share this with you too. Every maintenance department I've ever been in, we're negative. By the time when you got to get to maintenance, it's just always causing problems. Either the machine's down, the property's empty, or you're just spending money, right?
Nobody's calling us to tell us everything's okay.
Never.
Yeah.
No.
So, by the way, our fridge is working perfect.
Yeah,
just want to say thank you.
It's not sunshine and rainbows when you're dealing with the maintenance department, but we try. We try our best. I mean, this is a unique situation where we're not trying to gouge everybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you're dealing with when an occupied property, you're dealing with an upset tenant because it's not working. They think they always live in a hotel and they want it yesterday, and then you have an upset owner because nobody likes to pay this stuff, and we're sort of stuck in the middle of dealing with it both. And
every time.
But and we still get complaints. Oh, your price too high, or this and that. And you guys were talking about a situation, where they said, "Oh, we're not going to use you guys." They went to get bids, and bids that we're getting were
twice as high as what we were bidding. I would not only that, and to each his own, right? But they were twice as high as what we bid, and then ultimately, I felt like most of it was unnecessary. I think that they're paying for things that aren't necessary in order to rent their property at maximum dollar, right? Like everybody can overspend and get the money that the rental rate that they're trying to get. Anybody can do that, right? Yep. There's a needle to thread between doing exactly what needs to be done, no more, no less, so that you can maximize your return on investment. And so, we fight that battle every day with the staff and the portfolio manager staff. God bless them, but no, the truth is they're fighting that battle, right?
Yeah, and they're fighting for the owner.
They're fighting for the owner, and they're we argues the wrong word. We have spirited discussions.
Respectful discourse is my favorite word.
Yes, try to limit the 4-letter words.
Yes,
but where there's a well, does this really have to be done? Well, that's a judgment call, and let's give it a shot, right? I mean, let's see what kind of feedback we get. But it's a return. We try to focus on return on investment.
Yeah, and that's a key point. There is a lot of gray area,
tons of gray.
And I think the way we look at even our pricing, we're not the cheapest around, we're not the most expensive.
No.
I think we're the value. We're the Toyota of the world. We might be a little bit more expensive, but we're going to do it right. The other thing is we stand behind it.
Correct.
So how many times has something gone wrong? Not tremendous time, but there's a handful of times where something goes wrong and we're back out there doing it free of charge because something got, wasn't done right or something was missed or, something like that.
And to your, you say that, and to your credit, we've had, you and I have had conversations with owners and miscommunication, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I thought this was going to be done and somebody would describe this as that and gray. We ate it. I mean, we went out and we did it, right? I mean, it was like, hey, I'm sending the guy out there. He'll be out there tomorrow. No extra charge. Sorry for the problem. We'll credit your account back, this or that. Like we make those decisions. Yeah. Not every day, but we've made those decisions multiple times, and that relationship with the owner is important,
And that's the thing is everything's driven by we want our tenants happy, we want our owners happy. And it's a big part of it.
Correct.
So
totally.
Awesome. So one of the things that actually you and I sort of battle over, and I'll have to admit this on camera, is I think you sort of won, is, we're bringing new owners on, maybe, they got 10, 15 properties, they're occupied or majority are occupied. And we have some onboarding fees because we do onboarding evaluations. Mm-hmm. It's surprising to me, but most self-landlords or self-managing landlords and a lot of, PM companies we take over from, not all, but some, they don't have move-in reports.
Correct.
And there's certain things that I grill people on, like CO2 detectors, safety issues, things like that, things that are liabilities that we have to make sure are in effect, and things like that. So I don't know what our onboarding fees are exactly, 99 to 199. Sure. It just depends on the unit or whatever, and that's to really do that. The evaluation or whatever, so that there's a couple reasons. One, we need to make sure those safety issues are addressed if they don't have it. And I need proof of that, because unfortunately we've had some scares where, we had a guy almost pass away from carbon monoxide poisoning, things like that. And it's our job to make sure that stuff is put in there, smoke, CO2 detectors, things of that nature. And we have to be able to prove it. Correct. God forbid something ever happen. I mean, first of all, I have to sleep at night, make sure people are safe. But, sometimes, a tenant will move in and then take down a smoke detector, but we need to have proof that it was there when they moved in. Now, if they took it because the battery was beeping or something, that's a different story. But so, we'll talk to owners and, like, oh, do I have to do these? My places are occupied. And, and in the past, we've waived some of that stuff and be like, listen, if you understand your risks here, and if we, have to move this tenant out, take them to court, we're probably going to lose because we don't have that report. Yep. And they're like, yeah, I understand. And we'd waive that. And then what would happen
so we would waive the fee. There would be no evaluation. And I'm not, when you hired me to come here, I had no property management experience, right? Like, I've run businesses and done, financial, reports and, trying to figure out profitability. I had no property management experience. Maybe you don't want to share that with all of your owners, but that's the honest to goodness truth.
I mean, you had some of your own rentals, but very little.
Like, not on mass scale, right? Yeah. And so I would venture to guess when I came in, I would be kind of like, oh, why am I going to pay those fees? Well, you don't know what you don't know. That's the honest to goodness truth, is you really don't. And what I've seen even on occupied units is that we can come in, we can do an evaluation on the front end for, I don't know how much you pay, 99 or $150 or whatever like that. And even when an occupied unit and the tenant moves out, you can still find damages from just in terms of cost savings. You can still find damages between the time that you did the onboarding evaluation and the time they move out. Yep. You can still find that. So if somebody leaves a light bulb or, puts a hole in the wall, even if they only live there 3 months between the time we onboard the new property and they move out, we can still assess them some damage to your property, right?
Yep. So at least we have something. Yeah, because we don't know if they're moving out in 3 months or 3 years.
Correct.
Right. If they're there for another 3 years and then there's damage, how am I ever going to prove those damages? Correct. And if it ends up in court, we will lose.
Right.
100% of the time.
100% of the time. Yep. And so you just don't know. I would say that's the first one. Number two, there's again, my own properties that I owned before I got here. I don't know the exact condition of my property. I don't know the condition of it at any given moment, right? So it's always good to just have a baseline, and it'll help you determine if you want to renew that tenant anyway. That's a huge thing. So on occupied properties, you were assuming, the tenant's not going to be living there if their toilets aren't working, the water's not working, the heat's not on. Right?
You would assume that.
You could assume that. So major issues are likely not, major costly repairs are not there. The real issue is on vacant properties, and you can walk through a property and cosmetically it looks acceptable, but you have no idea what it looks like, what it's going to be until someone's really loading all of the mechanicals of that property. You're going to get a tenant that when it's 50 degrees wants to set their furnace at 85, which we've had that happen. And then
why is my furnace not keeping the house warm? Right. Well, what do you have it at? 85. It's 20 outside. Yeah, it's not going to take it to 85 degrees.
But your furnace is running that whole time, right? Yep. Number one. Number two is Did they, if we don't do the eval when it's vacant, is the furnace filter changed? Like that's going to really cause issues, plumbing issues. We run the sinks, we run the water. We're checking for hot water, and so if we can catch all of that when it's vacant, first and foremost, it's just easier to do when it's empty. And if anything is easier to do, it's also cheaper to do. So if we catch it if we do an evaluation on a vacant property and say, hey, your water heater's 15 years old and it's not staying lit anyway, we would recommend you replace it. Right now we're charging $1,250 for a water heater, right?
And if we had to do that on the weekend, because that's when it's going to go out. That 15-year-old hot water heater is going to go out on a Saturday morning.
Correct.
And it's going to almost double the cost.
Oh, it is. So yes, it's $1,250 for us to just go out and do it. And then, if we're going to call a plumber on an emergency service on a weekend, which we are, we need to try to have the hot water returned into service within 24 hours.
Yep.
And so we do that, and we have to end up calling a vendor or something to get them out there. It's $2,400. I mean, every time.
And just to explain that, a lot of people don't realize no hot water is considered an emergency.
Correct.
So you can't take 5 days.
Nope.
So, I think the law states reasonable period of time, but there's court cases that determine it's in our internal policy is to be safe. So an owner doesn't get sued and we don't get sued is 24 hours.
Right.
So any emergency needs to be handled within 24
Correct.
hours. So, you bring up vacant properties, like, well, why do I need an evaluation on a vacant property? But more specifically, we've had specific situations where maybe somebody just bought a house that was vacant,
Correct.
and they're like, oh, it just got rehabbed. Everything's good. All good to go. I had an inspector out there and everything's good to go. But what maybe they don't realize or whatever is, like you said, maybe the utilities weren't on, maybe the water
Correct.
wasn't on. Did they, check this? They checked maybe foundation issues,
Right.
things like that. That's what they look at. But we've had some terrible situations where like it's ready to go, all good. You walk in, it looks really nice,
Correct.
looks really pretty. And then we put it on the market, we get a tenant in there, they move in, no hot water, no this, no that.
Furnace doesn't work.
Yeah. And I remember we had like 15 work orders in
Correct.
3 days, and it was stuff that would have all been found on that, inspection,
Right.
or I think all would have been found. Majority
so,
definitely, yeah. So would definitely been found. So now I have a teed off tenant. I have an owner with a bunch of unexpected expenses. We had guys getting pulled off because now we have somebody that just moved in and has all these it's just a horrible way to start a relationship, both on the owner side, but on the tenant side
Correct.
as well,
Correct.
so
there's no soft landing for a situation like that.
There's no one's recovering from that.
I'm telling you what, the tenant's not happy, the owner's not happy, I'm not happy, my maintenance techs aren't happy. No one is satisfied. And not that a $99 charge on an evaluation is going to catch all of that, but I think it's going to limit some of it.
Dramatically reduce.
Dramatically reduce.
Yeah,
we can't put a plumbing system through a full, what a family of 6 is going to put it through. But we can turn the hot water and see if there's got hot water and check the drains and check that kind of stuff.
Some of the areas with like these clay sewers have a tendency that the place was vacant for a while, they rehab, water wasn't running through that. As soon as water starts running through it, the roots start growing and then it clogs up the sewer. There's no way we're going to catch that.
And you flush a bunch of toilet paper or paper towels down there, it gets snagged on the roots, and then it's backed up.
Yeah.
And nothing you can do. And full disclosure, we're not going to catch that.
No, there's no way because it hasn't happened yet. It's just sitting there waiting, and we just don't know, and we're not going to run it through enough pace to be able to find that issue.
Right. But there are some things that we would catch, and it would be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, like the furnace not working, no hot water.
Yes.
We've had pipes leaking. You turn on, they never turned on the water. The tenant turns on the water, and water's spraying out. So it's things
shower,
like that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, my again, you're in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, right? And nobody's been there to check it, and the toilet doesn't work. On a Saturday.
It's emergency.
It's an emergency.
Yeah. If they had a second toilet, not emergency.
Right.
One toilet that's not operational is an emergency.
Right. Or the shower, there's hot water to the sink, but there's no hot water to the shower.
Yep.
Right. That's an emergency. You can't. You have to send somebody out so that person with one shower it's functional. That's it.
And we do that to reduce our liability, but also our owners.
Correct.
Because, this is a litigious society, and, whenever there's any kind of lawsuit, and we've had a few over the years, and we've never lost a major lawsuit, but they're always suing us and the owner. Always, so that's why it's very important that, we team up with owners that have the same core values as us as well, because if they're doing something that maybe they shouldn't be doing, it drags us into, the issue, and vice versa. So It's very important to be on the same page with that kind of stuff.